Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This segment's being brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals publish to inform their consumers, grow their practices, and to leave a legacy. We're doing a series of spotlights on remarkable attorneys from across the country and in your town with focuses on elder law and estate planning. Joining me on this segment is Peter Walsh. He's a shareholder and attorney with Von Briesen and Roper based in Wisconsin. Peter, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I know elder law and estate planning is a broad topic. Can you kindly tell us a little bit about the areas that you focus on in that spectrum and the types of clients that you serve?
Okay, yeah, correct. Estate planning is very broad practice area. It deals with planning to reduce costs and administrative delays upon death or incapacity. That's one of the main functions of estate planning. In my practice, I'm more specialized in areas of lack of capacity. Okay. I do a lot of planning and work with families where a loved one may have a disability or because of age lack some capacity to manage their own affairs. This may manifest itself in planning for long-term care, trying to organize people's assets and to minimize the amount they'd have to spend down before they qualify for public benefits to cover the cost of long-term care. Long-term care is probably the biggest potential expense Americans face now. It used to be, taxes are now less of a concern for the elderly. Now it's more about the cost of continued care of an elderly parent or a disabled child. And so I do a lot of that type of planning. I also deal with litigation that comes up because of capacity issues, either through guardianship or inheritance litigation related to somebody's exploitation of an elderly person who lacks capacity. I've served on as a chair and of the elder law section for the State Bar of Wisconsin, and I've also sat on the Attorney General's task force on elder abuse in Wisconsin. So primary focus of my practice is trying to deal with elderly folks that have reduced their capacity, have some reduced capacity, and because of that are vulnerable and need some assistance. I have an elderly parent who's in memory care, so I can speak to the issues surrounding that. I mean, it was particularly rough for folks the last year with the COVID and the isolation of the elderly. I know it was very rough on my father, and I think it accelerated the decline of capacity, the isolation, and I think that's from my anecdotal experience, I think that's been suffered by a lot of families because of the isolation of their adult parents and the lack of engagement. It has accelerated a lot of senility.
I know the pandemic has really shined a light on the lack of information or misinformation out there in regards to elder law and estate planning. What are some of the dangers that people face if they want to just kick the can down the road or keep their head in the sand and not have their affairs in order and put their ducks in a row? What are some of the dangers they face by being underprepared or not prepared at all?
Well, in terms of capacity issues, the dangers are increased expense of planning or dealing with it. and a lack of options and privacy. For example, a failure to do powers of attorney for health and finance doesn't solve the situation. It only creates a situation where the only option may be to do a guardianship, meaning if you end up, if your capacity becomes diminished and you don't have a power of attorney, decisions still need to be made for you. And the fact that you didn't appoint someone to trustworthy to make those for you doesn't mean they're not going to be done. They're just going to be done through somebody appointed by the court. And to get to the court appointing someone, you're going to incur substantially more expense. In terms of planning for long-term care, the failure to plan is going to reduce your options. If you have the means to seek to obtain insurance, like long-term care insurance, in some vehicle, be it a straight long-term care insurance policy or some life and long-term care hybrid product, then you're going to have a lot more options. If you're planning on just privately paying or just spending now to get on Medicaid, well, you have those options, but they're painful options, and often cause a shortening of your life expectancy. There is statistics that show that people who have long-term care insurance end up living longer, actuarially speaking. And it makes a lot of sense because even if you have the money to pay for long-term care, it is so expensive that you're likely to forego care, even if you can afford it, just because you don't want to pay the expense. So the other aspect of that is it also reduces the life expectancy of your family caregivers because of the stress. So I think that if you have the fund, and I don't sell long-term care insurance, I'm just saying that I know that the stress for those who don't have it is great. And I see why it is. And I think that for my own self, my own family, I advocate for some level of long-term care insurance to have the option of care at home paid for by an insurance company as opposed to your private savings. Even if it's only, a lot of people are like, well, they misunderstand that there's a lot of room between no insurance and the Cadillac plan of lifetime benefit. Even if you have like a year or 2 years of long-term care insurance, or just a lump sum, like if you had an acceleration on a life insurance policy, you can do a lot when you couple it with planning for that to create a lot of options for you. So I think the dangers of not planning are essentially much higher expenses, a lot less efficiency in the administration, perhaps family squabbles because there isn't somebody designated to be in charge, or a lack of guidance for decision making. And the resulting stress and anxiety could cause shortening of life expectancy.
Peter, what inspired you to focus on the areas of elder law and estate planning? How did you get started in this field?
Well, I come from a long line of attorneys. I'm third generation. And so when I initially got into it, it was related to what my father's firm was focused on, or their need for that. And I started practicing in the tail end of the 20th century, 1999 is when I started. And at that time, the estate tax was much lower. It was $675 meaning the exemption to avoid estate tax is much lower. So the estate tax planning was very large. It was a very large part of the practice of law. Well, as the tax situation changed and the exemptions for estate tax went up, now they're at 11 million a person. We, folks like myself, we wanted to take the tools that we had for estate tax planning and continue to use them. And I just kind of moved into the elder law practice as a result. But once I moved into it, it became my preference because of the more immediate need. Okay, like the problem with tax planning is the benefits are not immediate. You save somebody estate tax, it might happen next week, might happen next year, might happen 5 years from now. It's very hypothetical in the terms of the appreciation of the benefit. Whereas if a spouse calls me and says, oh, my husband had a stroke and now he's in a nursing home and it's costing me $10,000 a month. How can I, what do I do? I can give that person immediate benefit and really help somebody when they're really hurting. So I think there's a tremendous need for it, and it's both, it's a financially lucrative area, but it's also a very emotionally rewarding area because you're helping people that really need help. These are, everybody's parents are, that it's so, it's not like, it's a very real situation, and it's emotionally rewarding to help them.
For folks that are tuning in right now that are in Wisconsin and could use your help, how can they connect with you and learn more?
Okay, well, I have a website. The address is www.wis, as in the old abbreviation for Wisconsin, WIS, W-I-S, Medicaid.com. So again, that's www.wismedicaid.com. And on that website, I've written numerous pieces on this planning topic, and I have a 20-minute video that goes through some Q&A, that commonly asked questions that can help people bring them up to speed a little bit on the practice. And then, if they want more, they have any more questions, they can reach out and call me or email me.
Peter, this has been terrific. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing with my audience today, and I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Thank you very much, sir.
Peter Walsh, he's an attorney with a focus on estates, trust, and elder law based in Wisconsin. This segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals publish to inform their consumers, grow their practices, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for tuning in.